Welcome to another episode of the Big J Little J Show. Duke handles business up in Syracuse, New York. They beat Syracuse 38-3. Duke dominated from the start, a complete game, 48 minutes. It was never a question. First possession of the game for Syracuse was an interception thrown to Caleb Weaver. And once that play happened, Duke took control and never looked back, cruised to a 38-3 win. Connor, would you say this was the most dominant win under Manny Diaz?
Yeah, without a doubt. The only one that even kind of comes close is that game at Middle Tennessee last year, and that was a pretty bad G5 team. This was an ACC team coming off a huge win. You caveat that with they lost their quarterback. It's unfortunate what happened to Steve Angeli down at Clemson, but Duke cannot control that, and every fan base thinks that they're victimized by backup quarterbacks all the time, whether it's true or not. So Ricky Collins was a really big time recruit. He was at LSU. It's not like they plucked him off the street or something. So yeah, this was a thorough win. I had the quizzical look on my face because you said it was a dominant 48 minutes. I guess I was.
Oh, sorry. I'm in NBA.
I'm
NBA
trying to figure out
60 minutes.
College basketball.
Sorry, 60 minutes. You're right. I was like, wait, it was a dominant win. But yes, 15. Oh, my God. Yeah, 15-minute quarters, not 12-minute. NBA Media Day was today. I've been watching a lot of NBA content today. So that was my fault. 60 minutes. But, yeah, look, I'm already unfortunately, I'm in the stereotypical Duke fan right now, right? I'm in basketball season. I saw you at Media Day for Duke basketball earlier this week. And so, yeah, or last week, I should say. And my brain's just been a pretzel trying to balance both basketball and football. 60 minutes. Duke was fantastic. And to your point about Ricky Collins, like, yes, Duke played a backup quarterback. But, look, here's the thing. We talked about this either on the show previously or shows in the past. Last year, Duke played Pop Watson. They played Virginia Tech at home, and there was no Kyron Drones. The backup came in. His name escapes me. He got hurt. So then Pop Watson came in, the third string, and he led Virginia Tech back into the game to where Duke was sweating bullets in the fourth quarter against a third-string quarterback because they didn't know how to play Pop Watson. So, yes, they played Ricky Collins, who's a backup quarterback at Syracuse. But, one, my point remains about Pop Watson and Virginia Tech last year. And, two, Fran Brown said going into the game, they're not changing anything. Like, Ricky Collins is going to be the quarterback. He knows the offense. He has full faith in him and so on and so forth. And then at halftime and at the end of the game, it sounded like Fran Brown was ready to leave Syracuse and find an SEC job. His name's going to be hot on the coaching market with all these openings happening. And Fran Brown's just like, we got outcoached, we got outplayed. He said at halftime that they're going to go in and fix all the things that were wrong, down 24-3 at half. They did not. It ended up being 38-3. It was just a long day for Fran Brown. He wore it on his face, and bless his wife's heart. She's in the third or fourth day now that he hasn't showered because he doesn't shower after losses. So hopefully for her sake, Syracuse wins whoever they play this week, because it could be a long, long month in that household with him not showering.
You're just drawn to the non-showering.
He said it last year.
I know.
That's crazy.
Bringing it up.
That's crazy. It deserves to be brought up. And also, you should not shower if you're winning. That's like the superstition, right? Like, you wear the same underwear if you're on a hitting streak. You wear the same underwear if you're shooting, 45% from three in basketball. Like, if you're on a winning streak, you don't change the routine. Not showering to wear the stink seems like it's ass backwards.
I don't know where to go with this
I'm sorry. That's just, look, when I played in college, my coach, when we were on a winning streak, he would never change his draw. He would wash his draws, but he never changed his draws to the next game. And so I was like, all right, that's your thing. So that's my point, is superstition, and you're a baseball guy. You know, there's weird superstitions that happen. I know you're not superstitious. We went over this, but
I'm a little stitious.
I will say, like, Duke got against NC State, Duke got like 3 or 4 third down stops. And I'm just going to say, I did the Angels in the outfield thing 6 times against NC State, and 4 out of the 6 times Duke got a stop on third down. So maybe it was
6. Good job.
Good God. This third down defense, Syracuse started 3 for 3, and thank God that stopped quickly, because I was getting worried at Syracuse.
You must not have been doing your Angels in the outfield thing then.
I wasn't, and that's on me. So I'm taking accountability for that. But we'll start
The
it
only
from the top.
the only place to go with this is Syracuse is at SMU this week, which to me is a really strange and weird game because I don't really know what to make of SMU. I thought they were going to be a top 3 team in this league, and they have not been that good. But I think they do have a decent record, don't they? Maybe they've
Um,
lost one to TCU.
I don't have it in front of me, to BH, but
Hang on.
they lost
Oh, they've
one.
lost 2. They've lost to Baylor and TCU.
Yes, and the Baylor game they should have won. They collapsed in that game.
Right. Right.
And then they played Missouri State and won 28-10, but they're down 10-0 in that game.
Mm.
So they, I don't.
And now they'll spend 2 months dealing with Rhett Lashley to Arkansas rumors. So
Correct.
Godspeed to SMU.
Yeah, Rhett Lashley to Arkansas. I saw that. I saw like Oklahoma State, but I think Jim Knowles might finally get a head coaching job. I could see him going to Oklahoma State because that's where he left Duke to go to Oklahoma State. And so who knows? But yeah, Fran Brown and Rhett Lashley will be 2 guys that are going to be popular to try and take away at certain schools. And going back to Syracuse, started from the top. I mean, the man of the hour, the player of the game, Nate Shepard. He got the keys, and boy, that offense was explosive. I mean, we already know Mensa, and I'm going to get to Mensa in a second, but Nate Shepard, 15 carries, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 catches for 33 yards. He can do it all, man.
It's not unheard of for freshman running backs to come in and be good immediately. I mean, I always think of that's one position where you're kind of more likely to see freshmen come in and make an immediate impact. But the advancement of where he is in his body, in how he plays without the ball, like that's always the big thing that coaches talk about is high school running backs run with the football. They don't spend much time pass pro. They don't spend much time like selling fakes and doing everything else that college running backs have to do. And how advanced Nate Shepard is in the other stuff that's what Manny Diaz talked about today as we were recording Monday night. Where he is with pass pro, with being a receiver out of backfield, he's a special player. It's kind of it's weird to say that it feels like it's early to say that, but it also feels like it's not early to say that because it's just been a gradual increase. I did a feature on him on Sunday night on Devils Illustrated, and his snaps have literally gone up with every single game. It went from like 12 to 20 to 22 to I think 36 and 37. But at some point, he's not gonna keep climbing that ladder. At some point, he's not gonna play that many snaps. But right now, you put a lot on his plate because he's proving he can handle it. He's proving that he doesn't have to have kid gloves approach. Like he's proving he is a 5'10", 200-pound physical runner. He is not a freshman who avoids contact. He goes through people and finishes plays. And that is everything Duke needs out of a running back right now.
Yeah, I mean, I said during the game, or posted a picture of Sean Wilson against Kansas his freshman year. I'm like, this is what it reminds me of. And I'm not saying him and Sean Wilson are the same backs at all, but just when Sean Wilson got a handoff, it was like, this is going to the house. When Nate Shepard get a handoff, even against NC State, I know he had like 15 for 64 or whatever. It just felt like he was going to go to the house. Tulane was the game where I'm like, just hand it off to him. I said it was Mateo Durant at UNC Charlotte that game. It was just clearly the best player on the field. The way he can get a corner is what's crazy to me. And that's something, again, that does remind me of Sean Wilson. It's like, if you can bounce it out, if he bounces outside and if a defensive guy has an angle, that angle's gone. It evaporates because he just has the foot speed. But what makes him different than other fast Duke backs in the past is he's like 5'10", 220. Like he has tree trunk legs to where you're going to have to wrap him up. You can't just swipe at his feet because he's a speedy back and that'll knock him off balance. He's very unbalanced and he falls forward just like Anderson Castle does.
Yeah, it's I always think the thing that it's really hard to evaluate. But the center of gravity for running backs is so valuable and it's so hard to evaluate. But to borrow from my other responsibilities with covering Wake, Damon Claiborne has one of the best centers of balance that I've ever seen. And that's why he's able to break so many tackles. And Nate Shepard has that quality too, where even if you get a square shot on him, one-on-one, if you get a lot of body on him trying to get him down in the open field, there's still a chance he's bouncing off of it if you give him your best shot. Be saying that about I apologize for not knowing his birthday off the top of my head, about an 18 or 19-year-old kid. That's a special quality for a college running back. And that's why I tweeted during the game that it's probably time right now to start setting aside some money for his NIL bump for keeping him in Durham for a sophomore season.
Yeah, I saw you tweet that, and I was like, "You're not wrong." And I do
I
have
don't
faith.
like the fact that that's where my mind goes. I hate that about where college sports is right now,
Mhm.
but it's just kind of where my mind went at one point when he was ripping off a run.
I mean, the same with Cal's quarterback. That his name is seriously escaping me. That's my fault right now. But after
Just
his
say JKS.
yeah, JKS. So they said about JKS when their opening game against Oregon State, he lit them up, and they're like, "Well, this is going to suck for Cal that they have found a new quarterback because he's going to go somewhere else." And that sucks to say. You can't really celebrate him in that moment. Yours is way different than that, but for the Cal perspective, for their fans, they just got gutted by the portal. They can finally celebrate a win opening night, week 1, and the first thing they look up on Twitter is like, "Well, he's going to the portal because he's too good for your team," and that's a tough pill to swallow if you're Cal. But Duke does have obviously better financial NIL than Cal does, but they do need to pay Nate Shepard because he's worth every penny. And I mean, LSU was knocking on his door his senior year of high school. He just got hurt, and that kind of worked in Duke's favor, and unfortunately for Nate Shepard, but that just happens.
Train too.
Yeah, that happens. My buddy Gibbs from Columbus, Ohio, Jack Gibbs, played Hall of Famer. He will be a Hall of Famer at Davidson, but Ohio State was going to offer him his senior year in high school. He was Gatorade State Player of the Year 2 years in a row, tore his ACL. They rescinded the offer they were going to have, so he ended up going to Davidson. After his first 2 years at Davidson, Ohio State came calling, trying to poach him in the portal. He said, "Go F yourself. I'm staying at Davidson." So, like, that happens. And so, unfortunate for Shepard in high school, but I would have never guessed that he got a knee injury in high school with the way he's playing this season. Leads Duke in rushing, 44 carries for 356 yards, Connor, 8 yards a carry. 8 yards a carry. Anderson Castle has 7.3 yards a carry. And so where I want to go with this is the two newcomers are averaging 7.5 yards a carry, basically. One has 44 carries for 356. Anderson Castle has 32 for 235. And then the two returners, Jaquez Moore and Peyton Jones, combined 38 carries, and their total yards per carry combined is 3.9 yards a carry. And so you kind of see where Duke's going, and we have suspicions about it. And obviously after the Tulane game, Manny Diaz said, like, we got to stop settling for field goals and red zones. We got to get better at scoring touchdowns. Well, the next week, Anderson Castle has 3 rushing touchdowns. This past week, Nate Shepard gets 2 and Anderson Castle gets 1. So it just shows, and not to pick on Jaquez Moore and Peyton Jones, but when I said in the Tulane game, Duke had a 3rd and 5, I think at the 7-yard line, and they handed it off to Peyton Jones. He got no yards. Duke kicked a field goal right there. I just felt like that was the wrong back of the situation. But I think Jonathan Brewer knew. I think Jonathan Brewer is just, paying homage to the guys that were returning, that, look, these two guys are going to get some carries because they're coming back for this program, and they are the vets in the backfield with this program. But we're seeing now where the newcomers they're being impact players. And Anderson Castle was one of the main reasons Duke beat NC State, and Nate Shepard was one of the main reasons Duke beat Syracuse.
Yeah, I don't think it's out of line to say that those guys didn't have their chances.
Yeah.
I hate it for Jaquez from the standpoint of his career was ascending in 22 and 23, and he had a really good 23 season, and it was under the previous staff, and he stayed around. I think, if I recall correctly, he's one of the guys that went into the portal and then came back out to stay with the staff.
You're right.
And then he gets hurt early, and and kind of has a lost season. And it's just right now, like 5 games into this season, it's unfortunate that he's lost some ground in the running back room. Uh, at the same time, like it's because of the nature of that position, Duke's probably going to need him to stay involved and need him to be ready at some point in the next 7 games or beyond to be ready to give them quality carries. You get hurt at that position always, almost always, I guess. But and then I mean, Peyton Jones still has a role as the kick returner. I've been trying to make the Peyton Jones breakout season happen for a couple years, and I think I'm finally letting that one set sail. But I still believe in his talent. I think the opportunities are just not going to be there in the same way that they were for him last year.
Yeah, I mean, they're talented. It's a good problem for Duke to have, to where they have 4 guys that, they didn't, like I said, they did it the right way. You're not going to give the carries to a true freshman right off the bat. You have to earn those carries as a true freshman, and Nate Shepard has. And then same with Anderson Castle, like short yardage back, but all of a sudden this short yardage back has 2 of the longest carries of the season because he's breaking through for the short yardage and making an explosive play. And so you got to keep him on the field. And so Peyton Jones was outstanding in the Miami game last year. Receiving and rushing was outstanding for Duke. And, it just sucks that that's a position where only one person can be back there. Like Duke actually does play Nate Shepard and Anderson Castle together, where they'll have the little play action to pass it to the flat to Nate Shepard, and he'll turn up field. He did it against Elon, did it against Syracuse. And so they'll have those packages. But, yeah, I mean, Duke – take away Mensah's 21 carries for negative 30 yards. Duke's averaging 6.4 yards a carry as a unit.
It's hard to get multiple running backs on the field too when you have multiple tight ends that are playable and you have really good receivers and you run the type of offense that Duke runs. They want to be up tempo. They want to spread you out. They want to, they don't want to give a defense the ability to kind of pack it in. Right. So you basically can only play one running back at a time in the Duke system. And that's where they are right now in the backfield.
Yeah. I mean, last year I was pulling it up. Duke averaged 3.2 yards per carry. Peyton Jones, 3.9. Jacquez, 2.7 on 32 carries for 86 yards. And they had 4 touchdowns combined. Star Thomas led the team with 7. And Willie Murphy had 2. So as a team, they had 13, and Duke already has 8 this season. So I feel like they're going to blow by that within the next – or for the season. I think Duke's going to have at least 16 rushing touchdowns.
Six of those 8 rushing touchdowns have been the last 2 games.
Yeah. But like I said, it's because they put the right guys in the backfield to get those. And so It's a credit to Jonathan Brewer, who I think has been outstanding this season. The shortcomings were – kicking field goals in the red zone. And the one thing, if you want to critique or criticize the offense, is when Duke's forced a turnover on the short side of the field, Duke has yet to score a touchdown out of that. I think that's happened 3 times now to where Duke has not scored a touchdown. Maybe the Tulane game, they ended up in a touchdown. So maybe 1 for 4. But twice in the NC State game, they had the interception. Chandler Rivers patted it in the air, Stone intercepted it. Duke did not get points from that. Then Wes Williams recovered a fumble against C.J. Bailey on the missed handoff. And then Duke actually had negative yards because Mensah got sacked. And then at Syracuse, was it Caleb Weave? It was Deshaun Stone forced the fumble again. They forced a fumble in the, second or third quarter. And then Duke didn't get points on that drive. So 3 times Duke's had short fields and did not score a touchdown. Yeah. But besides that,
they did score. They did convert a touchdown against State the end of the first half one. Trey Freeman returned it all the way.
Yeah. Correct. Yes, I was just saying 3 instances where Duke's had short yardage or on short field, they have not resulted in points. But besides that, I mean, they are averaging. I wish I had 38.5 points per game. I'm pretty sure, Connor. Twice they scored 45. They're coming off a game that scored 38. And I mean, Darian Mintz has 1,500 yards passing on 13 touchdowns and 2 picks. Running backs have 764 yards. You have the wide receiver room. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people have catches. And you have 3 guys with 3 or more touchdowns. So they're spreading the pillow around. They're moving the ball on all cylinders. And Fran Brown even said in the press conference after the game, he said for verbatim, it seemed like they knew what the hell we were running. We got out coached. I think their offense coordinator did a really good job today. And so Syracuse blitzed on 17 of Duke's 33 dropbacks and only got pressure on 8 of them. So that's a really good job by Brewer. Duke threw some screen passes that just opened up the whole field, whether it was wide receiver screen, running back screen, tight end screen, whatever it was. Whatever screen was happening, it was the right call at the right time against pressure. And Brewers just was fantastic Saturday.
And then we don't need to keep beating a dead horse here, but that's why it was important to improve at the quarterback position. That's why it was important to go out and get receivers that fit what Duke wants to do at the receiver position with Cooper Barkate and Andrell Anthony. They felt good about Quayshawn Brown and Samir Hagan's development as their roles would increase. And that's why they went out and improved the tight end position, both with the natural progression of Jeremiah Hazley getting healthy, and then Landon King, who actually missed this game, comes in and helps them improve that position. I mean, it's really hard to be discouraged about anything Duke is doing offensively right now.
Yeah.
Even in the games where it's felt like they've stalled for 2 or 3 drives in a row or haven't punched across touchdowns, they've eventually solved those things. Like in Tulane, their offense looked terrible until they started moving the ball in the second half. State, they were down 20-7, and all of a sudden the offense reeled off 4 touchdowns in 5 possessions.
Yeah.
It's just, they have so many different ways they can hurt you. They have a quarterback who can distribute the ball quickly and get it to the right spot. They have talented running. Like, you just go down the list, and then you have the engine of an offensive line with 4 or 5 returning starters, with a future NFL player at right tackle in Brian Parker, probably a couple other NFL players, but that's the one that I think is the draft pick out of this group for sure. It's just, and it's, and this is another point that, gosh, I can't remember. I think it was Manny who brought it up. You get the sense that Duke's offense can score every time they get the ball. And what that does is it helps you play complementary football to the nth degree, because then when they are scoring touchdowns, this is why it was so important for them to get the red zone stuff figured out. When they're scoring touchdowns, the opposing offense feels like they have to go out there and score a touchdown every time, which allows Duke's defense to attack, which allows them to create pressures and put you in long passing downs, which is when you have a team with elite pass rushers in Vincent Anthony and Wes Williams. It all comes kind of in a circle, and it's all that's what playing complementary football looks like for the roster that Duke has.
Yeah, I mean, Duke was 6 of 13 on third down, also at Syracuse, 2 for 2 on fourth down. So right when you get them on third down, they're going to convert. And to your point, with the receivers, like Andrew Anthony was fantastic against Illinois, 2 touchdowns. And then he's been quiet the last 3 weeks, but that's because everybody else has done. Queso was, had a slow start, or had a non-existent game against Illinois in the last 3 weeks. Queso's been the one instead of Andrell. And then reliable Cooper Barkate is just always open and making great plays week in and week out. And then you get a splash of Samir Hagan's. And so Duke you heard Bielema say it, and you heard Summerall say it, that the wide receiver, both of them are worried about Duke's speed. And even Manny said the way Illinois guarded Duke's wide receivers is something that Illinois never did, with 2 safeties over top, because they're worried about Duke's speed. And you can kind of write that off. Maybe you wanted to write that off after they lost to both teams, like, oh, it's just coach speak. But you saw it against NC State, and you saw it against Syracuse, and you're going to see it throughout the year, where Duke's going to burn you. And if if you play so deep off, this is where Brewer's been so good at throwing the screen passes with short passes. I mean, hell, we'll get in the offensive pass interferences that were 5 of them, I think, in the game, 3 by Duke and 2 by Syracuse. But after Duke's first OPI, they throw just a little slant to Queso, and he gets 25 yards he gets 29 yards on a 1st and 25 because they're playing so far off of him due to his speed.
Yeah, and to backtrack to Andrell, Manny and Brewer, I think, both said today that the last 2 weeks they've missed him on routes that would have been touchdowns. They just
There you go.
either haven't seen him or haven't been able to get him the ball, but he's got these low PFF grades, and it's kind of like, well, PFF isn't grading whether he beats his man and doesn't get the ball. Like, you don't get a positive grade for that, at least my understanding of it. So, yeah, like you can't say it enough. They have so many different ways they can hurt you. They have a wide array of skill at the receiver position. They have shake and bake guys. They have guys that can make tough catches. It was kind of one of the amazing things about this game was the way they talked about it going into it. Syracuse plays a lot of man-to-man, leaves guys on islands. So I went into it thinking, well, Duke is going to have to throw a bunch of contested catch balls. They're going to have to win a bunch of 50-50s. Clemson had to be 7 for 18 against Syracuse. Now, granted, Clemson was down early and had to throw a ton. Duke had the complete opposite game script from the mid-second quarter on. You know how many contested catch targets Duke had? Like, not even contested catches, but contested catch targets?
No.
1. Chase Tyler had the only contested catch target, and he caught it. It was like a 12-yard catch. But either because of Syracuse playing off or because Duke's receivers created that much separation, Duke only needed 1 contested catch throw in this game.
Jeez. And I want to get into the OPIs. The one black eye, if you will, in the game for Duke was just a lot of penalties. I think 9 penalties for like 105 yards or something like that. 3 in my notes that I took during the game, 3 15-yard penalties on offense that actually might be upgraded. But one was forced a field goal on the opening drive because Duke had 2 OPIs, and the Hazley one was bullshit that I tweeted about. And then another 15-yard penalty was intentional grounding on Mensah because he thought, I think it was Andrell or somebody, ran a curl and he threw it deep, and they called intentional grounding, and that made Duke punt. So, like, those 2 drives should have been touchdowns because one drive was a field goal after 2 offensive pass interferences on the same drive, and the other was an intentional grounding that made Duke end up having to punt.
I've never seen that miscommunication throw errant deep pass called as intentional grounding. That was nuts to me.
It was nuts to me too, because you could tell
I'm not bitching about the reffing. I just like it completely changes my way of thinking when I'm watching a game now of if a quarterback miscommunicates with the receiver and throws it to nobody down the field, that's now intentional grounding.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I didn't like that call at the time, but
that's always just been a
throwaway. It's a throwaway of like 2 guys miscommunicate. You're supposed to go because it's all. I assume it's an option route. Like if he's playing like this, you sit on it, you curl. If he's sitting like that, then you go deep, and it's just misread. And so that was weird. That was I didn't like that call. I thought the officials sucked, but my stand with officials. 5 offensive pass interferences in the game total is crazy.
You really, I haven't talked enough about officiating in the last 48 hours. So please, let's talk more about officiating.
No, we're good. We're good. I know you finally witnessed a defensive player jump off sides and they missed it. So that's back-to-back weeks for you now with controversy of a guy possibly jumping off sides.
I watched the VJ Anthony play against State at least 20 times, and it's not anywhere close to the given penalty that State fans think it is. It just looks that way because the offensive line doesn't move. VJ looks around for the flag when he's in the backfield, and CJ Bailey is surprised that he snapped it.
Yeah. And then he threw it was completely different than the Georgia Tech one, but we won't have to get into that. But I do want to get into the Duke.
Now you want to get into the 2-point conversion
No 2-point conversion talk this week. We escaped that back-to-back weeks. But Duke's defense, they had 23 missed tackles last week. Packy said it was down to 10 this week. I thought they played a lot. Obviously, they only gave up 3 points, which is also LOL Fran Brown trying to score a touchdown just to make it look better than it actually was at the end against Duke's true freshmen out there, as Duke just played literally true freshmen. I don't want to get into, but missed tackles went down 23-10. A guy I want to highlight, Caleb Weaver. Duke gave him player of the game. His first quarter was the most colorful first quarter of college football this season. First play of the drive, roughing the passer, hands to the face on Collins for a deep, and it turned into a deep completion. And then same drive, interception. And then after that, he had a few open field tackles where they throw like a screen and he beat the blocker. Nice open field tackle. Then he got hurdled by the 6'1" running back. And you're like, oh God, Duke's going to go viral being hurdled. On that same drive, though, he was the one that sacked Ricky Collins after he broke, I think, Wes Williams and VJ tried to sack him. He was scrambling. Caleb Weaver sacks him, and they kick a field goal. And that's all in the first quarter, Connor. That was roughing the passer, interception, tackles open field, hurdled, and then a sack. But he played a great game. The reason why he was all in those plays is because he was everywhere on the field. So you're going to have a bad play with 5 good plays. It just happens. And I thought Caleb Weaver was outstanding for Duke.
Yeah, we talked to him after the game, and it was kind of clear that it goes twofold when you talk about confidence for the defense and confidence for Caleb Weaver. Like he's grown more confident with each week. I think he would tell you that he did not have great games earlier in the season than he had against Syracuse. That might be obvious with his performance against Syracuse just in the first quarter. He was probably better than some other games. So, I mean, it's not like you're expecting that, but you're at least prepared for it with a guy coming up from a G5 school. Not just a G5 school. He was a walk-on at a G5 to then starting for an ACC school. That's a large jump in a few years, but that's a large jump. So I think it's natural to think that a guy like that is going to have some kind of learning curve when the actual live reps start. When you're coming into a team that thinks they should be competing atop the ACC, it's not like he stepped into a rebuilding situation. Like there's internal pressure with this team that Manny has talked about throughout the first month of the season. And part of me, when he's talking about that, I think of it like the newcomers on the team might feel that even more than the returning players, because they're the ones that are looked at like, you know, you've got to carry our standard. You've got to carry the banner of what we've established here. So I think you could tell talking to Caleb after the game, like he's become so much more comfortable after a month in the system at Duke, playing faster and making reads more confidently.
Yeah, he had a really good game. A guy I want to talk about too, Luke Murgott. Talked about him last week that he really impressed me with the speed against NC State, and you see he's getting more and more comfortable. I thought he played really well. I want you to talk about the freshman linebackers as well. Shaper?
This is another one of the weird ones where the coaches pronounce it one way, and I think that's how we pronounce it, but coaches' pronunciations are never like 100%. So Manny's been calling him Shopper.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about Elliott, and I want to talk about Bradley Gompers. Why are you laughing? Because I said first name?
You just go to using the first name?
Yeah, I'm just going to use the first name. And Gompers, because, look, Trey Freeman went down in the first quarter, and I'm like, oh, boy, Duke's going to have Todd Polino playing linebacker at this point because you lost Nick Morris Jr. for the year. Kendall Johnson was out, and I think he's going to miss Cal also. And then Trey Freeman goes down. You're like, okay, well, there's no linebackers on this team. And Trey Freeman came back in the game, but it's not a knock on Trey. Those Luke Murgott and those two freshmen, they held their own. They looked comfortable, comfortable in that setting in the game. And I thought those guys played fantastic.
Yeah. keep mixing up who was talking for these things today. It was either Manny or Pat Key was explaining that at some point Syracuse had like 4 different motions pre-snap, and both of the freshman linebackers were in there. I think it was Pat Key as I'm saying it. And as a defensive coordinator, you're watching that. It's probably past the 15-second mark when the communication to the helmet gets turned off. So you're just kind of watching it hopelessly, and just praying that your freshman linebackers picked up enough that they can handle the switches and the motions and everything that comes with it. He said they were fine. Like, that's one play. It's just one play. It's just one game for those two. I think one played 28 snaps, the other played 31. But
out of 70, right?
Yeah. So playing about 40% of the game.
Yeah, it's ACC play. That's a lot of snaps.
An ACC road game. Yeah, that's a big spot for freshman linebackers. But one game into them being primary backups and rotational players, they handled themselves well. Like the phrasing that Manny used was Gompers acquitted himself well, and Shopper looked right at home. Like, they're, again, one game in, but so far so good with those two being in key spots.
Yeah, I mean, Luke Murgott had 5, Gompers 5 tackles. Gompers had 4, 3 of them were solo, and then Shopper had 3 total tackles. And so, they played well. And Trey Freeman
the other number I'll give you, at least the way we covered this last week, the way Duke tracks missed tackles is different from the way PFF tracks them.
Right.
PFF, at least, neither one of them had a missed tackle.
That's impressive. I mean, that's impressive. I thought they played great, and they're just getting – I said last week, they're just going to get better and better. Luke Murgott's going to get better and better. And even the broadcast was talking about he had the green dot, so he's the one that's communicating. He's the quarterback on the defense, and you can just tell his mannerisms are coming along to where he's confident in what he's seeing. And he just looked – I'm a big fan of him. I think he's good. And then, look, Gompers – talented freshman, but can somebody give him some gloves? Like, we need to get Gompers his swag's got to be a little bit better. I saw him going just, no gloves, one sleeve. I'm like, what are we doing here? Give the true freshman some gloves out there. But he played great. He's going to be fine. He's going to have just as many snaps, I think, against Cal. And then as a whole for the defense, Connor, forced 3 turnovers. It's back-to-back weeks now. Duke's won the turnover battle, and they've won the scoreboard. 5 tackles for a loss and 6 pass deflections. This was the Manny Diaz defense. Like, this was – now, is 3 points going to be every week? No. But you know what? I joked about Syracuse getting those – they started the game 3 for 3 on third down. They finished the game on third down. They were 5 of 14. Okay. So start 3 for 3, and then they were 1 for 3 on fourth down. So that's outstanding by Duke. And they gave up 314 total yards. And, oh, by the way, since it was a blowout, I alluded to it earlier, all young Bucks played the fourth quarter. Like, Pelachata was out there playing, Mekhi Jones, like these guys that had to step up in emergency time last week got real snaps, and Juice looked really good. Pelachata had a couple really nice plays in the fourth quarter. I know you're impressed that I'm getting his name right. And he played well. And then, lastly, Musa Kane. He was on Jolie last week and did a good job in those few snaps. But this week he led Duke in tackling. Maybe he is the third down stopper. I have no film on that. But you know what? If he shut down Jolie allegedly last week on third downs when he got in the game, Syracuse was 5 of 14, and he led Duke in tackling. Maybe Musa Kane was the solution. And watch me say that, and he wasn't on any of the 14 third downs that I'm talking about. But he led Duke in tackling, and Musa Kane, that length is a problem, obviously, for Syracuse, and he did a good job.
No, I know for sure he was on at least one third down, because there was a 3rd and 5 or 6 when Syracuse was kind of backed up inside its own 20, and Ricky Collins scrambled, and Musa was the one that hit him and helicoptered him.
Flipped him, yeah. Yeah, and
So he was in there for at least one third down.
And he was in on a fourth down where Duke went all-out blitz on Ricky Collins, and Musa had him dead to rights, and he escaped that pressure, then threw it, and they ruled it incomplete, or maybe they ruled it complete on the field where they caught it like the 2-yard line. Then they booth reviewed it and said the ball hit the ground out of bounds. But Musa was the blitzer on that, or one of the blitzers. Duke's literally sent like 10 guys. And so, yeah, he was there on the field on third downs. But Duke's third down defense, I know it's backup quarterback, but look, 5-14, maybe this was the reps Duke needed, the psychological reps, like, okay, we can get off the field on third down. And so that's something to look forward to, or, take notes for when Duke plays against Cal.
Yeah, I mean, the most impressive thing about talking about Musa last week after the NC State game was Patkey and Manny talking about how well prepared he was, and how he knows multiple positions, obviously, because he's been playing corner, and all of a sudden they're throwing him in there with the dime package, and he's matching up in the slot against either slot receivers or tight ends. So you feel really good about having a cerebral player in your secondary who you can move around and do a couple different things with him. And there's so much value in that, especially for a team that gives up so many third and longs that it just, I know it makes people want to pull their hair out, but figuring out how to have a good package for those third and longs comes with having a guy like Musa Kane, who, they might not throw him out there for 50 or 60 snaps at any point in a game this year, but rolling him in there for somewhere between 15 and 20, he's very valuable to this team.
Yeah, he is. And he's somebody that Duke's going to have to rely on in an important road game at Cal, Connor. We'll get right into it. So this upcoming Saturday, Duke plays at Cal, 10:30 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. I think Duke right now, as we record, are 3-point favorites. Cal was preseason win total was 4.5. They are 4-1, with their one loss being a goose egg to San Diego State. I think it was 34-0. This Cal team, though, like, freshman quarterback, he is unbelievable. JKS, that's what I'll call him this whole time, because I don't want to insult him. I'm not going to insult him by mispronouncing his name. So JKS, 1,200 yards passing, 8 touchdowns, 4 picks. But, I mean, they came back. They were down 14-0 at Boston College last week, looked dead to rights, and he throws, the go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter, just over 3 defenders into the wide receiver's hands. He just makes throws. And you're just like, damn. He was, people that are unfamiliar with him, he was a 5-star quarterback. I think he was committed to Oregon, Connor.
So he committed to Cal. Then Oregon flipped him at signing day, and he was at Oregon in the spring. And then he went back to Cal. So he's, I'm sure this is another one where I don't like the climate of college sports, but it just is the reality of where we are right now. He is a freshman who is already a transfer portal guy. Like, yeah. Pete Nikos with On3 is putting him in all these lists for the top transfer quarterbacks each week. And I'm just like, how can you list him that? He's a freshman.
Yeah,
but he shows up in all the transfer portal rankings.
That's crazy. But he's unbelievable. Lefty, big lefty. A guy that people will know for Cal, Kendrick Raphael, has 356 yards rushing on 76 carries, 2 touchdowns. He is an NC State transfer, played for NC State. Then their leading receiver is Grizzle? Grizzle, 20 catches, has a touchdown. But the one thing that stands out to me, Connor, about Cal is, look, I think Duke averaged 38 points per game. That's wrong. 35 points per game Duke averages, 44th in FBS. Duke's 14th in passing yards per game at 14th, 19th in the FBS in total yards per game. But Cal's defense, they're 34th in the country in giving up yards per game at 307. Now, they haven't played a gauntlet, but this team is supposed to win. Their win total is 4.5, and they're 4-1, and their defense is because of it. I mean, they're 34th in the country in rushing yards per game allowed at 111. They give up only 18 points per game. Talented freshman with a good defense, again, albeit they haven't played the best talent. This is cross-country trip to a team that's overachieving in 5 games, Connor. This is a spot that Duke's going to have to be focused on.
Yeah, the part that I'm going to really make you not feel good about for Duke fans is I think Cal has been the underdog in 3 games, and they're 3-0 in those games. The one game they lost was the only game that they were favored to win.
That does not make me feel good at all. Yeah, they beat Oregon State 34-15, Texas Southern, they 35-3, which they're favoring that. But they beat Minnesota at home by 2 touchdowns, 27-14. That's a pretty good win. Minnesota is middle of the pack, Big Ten team. And then, San Diego State 34-0. And then Boston College comeback win on the road, cross-country trip, by the way. I mean, yes, it's only a 4-point win against Boston College, but that was that was a noon kickoff. I'm pretty sure.
No, it was a night game.
It was a 3:30 kick. And I think, regardless, they went cross-country and were down 2 scores, down 14-0, and came back and won the game. And so this Cal team, they showed resilience on the road going cross-country.
Yeah, and to talk about the defense was good last year. Like I got a taste of Cal because they played at Wake last year. They had a couple NFL guys on that defense last year. And that one of the reasons their win total going into the season is so low is because of what they lost. They lost all their offensive talent to the transfer portal. Like Jaden Ott is at Oklahoma. Javian Thomas is at UCLA, which I'm sure he would like to redo that situation.
Yeah.
Their tight end went to Texas. Their best receiver from last year was a young guy who now at Nebraska. Like, they had high-end offensive talent, and that's why it's kind of hard to wrap your head around how good they are offensively around a freshman quarterback, because they had this mass exodus. Like, at one point in spring ball, it was like we were talking about Cal's running back situation the way we were talking about Duke's offensive line situation in spring ball a year and a half ago. They just ran out of guys.
Yeah. They have. I mean,
so they've got players, but the defensive guys they lost, they went to the NFL. Like, they had a couple of defensive backs that were draft picks. Teddy Buchanan was their best linebacker last year. He's getting big snaps for the Ravens right now. Doesn't mean much because the Ravens defense sucks, but like, he's playing on an NFL roster. So I think we all in the ACC, we all made fun of the addition of Cal, Stanford, and SMU because, like, what are they going to do? Like, the geography jokes write themselves. The football tradition and culture is those programs are nowhere close to where they were. But Cal has a decent football program. Like, they were better than their record indicated last year. They just needed to finish some games that they couldn't, and they couldn't kick field goals. They had a really good defense last year that just broke at the worst time in that Miami game when they gave up whatever it was, like a 25-point lead.
They beat Auburn on the road last year.
Yeah. So this is, I don't know. Is this a tougher game for Duke than a home game against Illinois?
It's two different. It's tough. I don't know if it's tougher, but it's 2 different circumstances, right? Like, Duke played like a nationally ranked team at home, noon kickoff. You had, all the eyes on you because it was a primetime game albeit, and then, talented team. This is a Cal team that's hungry, young, West Coast trip. East Coast to West Coast is brutal. And a talented quarterback to where, look, Duke had an off week. Duke had an off week against, like, QB play. Every week this year has been a gauntlet of talented quarterbacks, it seems like, that Duke's played. And now you saw what Duke can do against an inexperienced quarterback with Ricky Collins. Now they're playing a true freshman that, is he inexperienced or is he really talented? I think it's both, right? Like, he is really talented, but then the San Diego State game, he was 17 of 38 for 208 yards and 2 picks. So there he looked like a true freshman. So I assume Duke's watched film on him for all the games, but maybe that one in particular, they saw stuff that the defense did that they might wrinkle into their stuff to make him just as confused. And so it's kind of, to answer your question, it's not tougher, but it's just a different tough. It's, and one in particular, like I said, the 10 o'clock kickoff, which I want to get into, Connor, because Manny Diaz came out today and said starting Wednesday, Duke's practicing at 8 or 8:30 at night to get accustomed to the late kickoff in California.
Yeah. So basically, for those, I might be telling you guys information that you already know, but college football teams, every team is either a morning practice or afternoon practice team. And it usually just depends on your academic schedules. So Duke, for as long as I've known, has been a morning practice team. Like they're up and practicing like 7:30 or 8 o'clock. They're finished by 10 or 10:30, and then they're all going to class, and they'll reconvene in the afternoon for like position meetings and stuff like that after class schedules. But to adjust, because Duke's bodies are acclimated to the time zone they're in, they spend time in. They're normal. They've been normal Sunday, Monday, and they'll be normal again Tuesday. And then Wednesday, they're switching and practicing at night. I don't know the exact times, but from what the program shared that we can talk about now, I think they're starting practice on Wednesday night at like 8:30 at night, and then flying out there a day early. Usually you fly to places the day before a game. Duke is going out there on Thursday. So it all kind of just it's all done to get yourself more acclimated to the time zone, to the time change. And it's not, I don't want to put this, it's not Duke just throwing darts at a wall thinking this is what we have to do. It's after talking to other teams and other coaches and other staffs that have done it. Even Jonathan Brewer today told us that after the game on Saturday, they were talking to Syracuse because Syracuse had to go out west and play last year. So they were talking to their staff about just some of the intricacies. They're not exchanging game planning information or anything like that. They're just talking about like, yeah, what was that like? What did you do? What's one thing you wish you would have done, or anything like that can kind of give you a little bit of advanced warning or insight.
Yeah, I think it's smart. And did you touch base on the students, what they said about the students?
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic idea. The only reason I know about it is because the Barstool Duke account tweeted it. They're doing a student availability where students, it looks like they can come watch practice on Wednesday night, get free pizza after practice or maybe during practice, and then meet with the team and the staff after the game. And I think that's a fantastic way to kind of generate more student interest. Duke has this weird schedule where they play one home game in a 5 or 6 week stretch. So that's a fantastic job to kind of keep people on campus engaged with what the team is doing and tell them, hey, we're gone for a while. We'll be back for the Georgia Tech game on the 18th, but come out and see us, help kind of give us a little bit of a send off in our Wednesday night practice before we get out of town. And I hadn't heard of that. I don't remember ever seeing anybody do anything like this. So it just struck me as a really good idea.
Yeah, I think it was a fantastic idea. I mean, like you said, it just brings the student body closer to the team and to give them more reason to come out when Duke plays Georgia Tech at home. What, 3 weeks, because they have a bye in between the Cal game.
Yeah, it's October 18th.
Yeah, and then a bye, then at Clemson, and then I forget the schedule the rest of the way.
After Clemson, they're at UConn.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. But it's a great idea, Connor. But I do want to talk about your keys to the game for Saturday. Like, this is, albeit a trap game, right? We kind of talked about this when we did our preseason show. We were like, this stretch right here for Duke is just weird, leading up to the Georgia Tech game. You go on the road at Syracuse. Luckily for Duke, they did play backup quarterback, but that could have been, after the NC State game. It's like, could be a trap game before Duke goes cross country. It was not. But now, is this a trap game for Duke before the bye week where they have Georgia Tech bye, than Clemson. So it's just that phrase trap game is going to be thrown around all week by sports bettors. I've already heard it once or twice already. And Duke's on ESPN, they're 3.5-point favorites, over under 55.5. But what are your keys to this game for Duke to win?
Yeah, I think more than anything, it's just a rinse repeat of how they prepared for Syracuse and how they played at Syracuse. You kind of have to rinse it from a standpoint of you move on. You don't try to repeat what you did, because what you did against Syracuse is probably not going to work. You're going to have to do different things to beat Cal. But then at the same time, like, repeat the same type of preparation, the same type of mindset that you took to go on the road and just annihilate a team in their own building. That's what this is going to take. Like, that's exactly what you want to see for every, like, not just this road game, but every road game for Duke. And they can actually have the type of season that they've wanted to have. And that's, I think that more than anything with X's and O's. I mean, obviously Darian Mensah has to keep playing to the level that he's playing, and that will probably mean that the offense plays to the level that it's played with or played at. But more than anything, I think this is kind of a mindset game, a preparation game for Duke.
Yeah, I agree. When you were talking, I was trying to look up, because Darian Mensah is from California. So I was like, how far is this from his hometown? But
Pretty far.
It's a big state. So I was looking it up and I didn't have time to see how far it is. But
I think it's, if I remember correctly from doing the stuff on him before the season, I think it's about 4 hours.
Okay.
I think my understanding of California geography, which is not great, so somebody can correct me in our mentions or whatever, but I think he kind of lived in between all the SoCal places, of, like LA and San Diego and that stuff. He's about
north
4 to 5 hours away from those, and then he's also 4 to 5 hours away from Berkeley, San Francisco, Sacramento, maybe. Like, he's that Central Coast is just right in the middle, and it's a long way to go to either one.
Makes sense. I take your word for it, because like I said, I couldn't pull it off in time. And so, yeah, I mean, he's still, going back to his home state, so maybe that'll mean something to him, though it's 4 or 5 hours away. He'll still have family and friends there, as it is the closest game for them with Duke's schedule. But look, my keys to the game, I haven't made my bet. I haven't made my decision yet for my bet. Obviously, I had Syracuse plus 6.5. I was so happy to have that lose. It's so nice to have an emotional hedge. Let me tell you, I was so perfectly fine with losing a unit on the Syracuse game. But this one, I haven't made a bet yet, because it does scare me. But my keys to the game is the San Diego State game, 34-0. I don't know if you've seen the box score on that, Connor, but you know how everybody's like, Duke fans were like, well, the score wasn't that bad with Illinois and Duke, because Duke outgained them. Well, San Diego State only outgained Cal by like 40 yards.
I had somebody who covers Cal tell me earlier today that I think Cal's first drive, they got down there to the 1 yard line and then got stuffed on, like, the opening drive of the game or their first drive of the game. And it was almost like they never recovered from it.
Yeah, so San Diego State, 321 total yards of offense, Cal at 289. What the key to my game is the reason why San Diego State won, and that is Duke has done a really good job of forcing turnovers the last 2 weeks. That is why San Diego State beat Cal. They had a 97-yard pick six and a 35-yard fumble return for a touchdown. And those right there, that's the game. And do I think Duke's going to have a 97-yard pick six and a scoop and score? No. But can Duke force turnovers again, like they have against NC State and like they did against Syracuse? Well, against a true freshman quarterback, I like my odds now. There for a second, I thought Duke's going to have the worst turnover luck in NCAA history. If Tulane would have recovered that fumble that bounced 15 yards after Duke finally forced one, I was like, Duke's never going to force a turnover this season. But luckily, that got it out of the way. Duke's, knock on wood, had a really good day of third down defense against Syracuse. Can you get Cal in third and longs? And, just I don't know what the crowd's going to be like there, but it's going to be a unique first-time environment for Duke football. So it could be 0 people there. It can be a sellout crowd. Regardless, it's a change of scenery that Duke's not accustomed to. I think the last time Duke was out west was Andrew Luck's Stanford with Jim Harbaugh. So it's been a long time.
Stanford again. He's just not playing.
Yeah, and Duke was blown out that game. Obviously, I think it was like 45-13 or something crazy. But, it's different. It's going to be weird. I haven't made a bet on this game. I don't know if I'll bet this game. But my keys to the game is continue to force turnovers and get off the field on third down. I have full faith in the offense that they have found their rhythm. Yes, Cal's defense and rush defense in particular has been really good this year. But, again, the teams they play they don't have a Nate Shepard on their team. They don't have an Anderson Castle. And they damn sure don't have a Darian Mensah, to where I think Duke will move the ball, but you got to score touchdowns. Again, one bad thing last week was the amount of penalties that has to be cleaned up, because Duke's averaging like 7 penalties a game. That has to get better, because that is going to bite Duke in the butt in a game they should win if they don't clean it up. And then Todd Polino was 0 for 1 on kicking a field goal. Like, Duke had the special teams as a whole was really good, or 1 for 2. He's 1 for 2 on a field goal. Sorry, 38-3. Point remains, he missed a kick. But
this one in every game.
Yes, Jesus. Special teams has been good on every other facet of the game. So
4 or 5. Sorry, Todd.
4 or 5.
I think he's missed 4 this year.
But I third down defense, force turnovers, offense continue to click on all cylinders, and you do that, Duke wins at Cal. And then you go into bye week 4-2, which after dropping Illinois and Tulane, you take those, especially with the way that Duke looked against Tulane, because that was the most deflated I felt in a while, of just like hopeless, because it just felt like anybody would score on this Duke defense right away. And so, you go to the bye week winning 3 in a row, 3 conference games. It's a hell of a start of the season.
Yeah, and on top of that, you lose to Illinois, you lose to Tulane, and then you're down 20-7 against NC State.
Yeah, great point.
That's what you're ready to spiral.
Yes.
And I've got somebody in my mentions telling me that Duke isn't even is a double-digit loss team. Like, wow, that'd be really bad.
That would be really bad. But, buddy, I was spiraling then when it was 20-7. Not going to lie. I think we deserve the right to spiral. But you know what? Duke kept at it. Like Manny Diaz said, this team doesn't quit, and they didn't. And now we're looking at 3-2 going to Cal. So that does it for the Big J, Little J show. We'll be back next week. Since Duke has a bye the week after, will be just the Duke Cal recap. And then the Duke Georgia Tech preview will be after the bye week. So, Connor, I appreciate it as always, buddy, and I'll talk to you next week.
Cool. Sounds good.